So what we're looking for is just good rocky habitat, because predominantly burbot are eating crayfish. So all these big boulders and rocks hold a lot of crayfish, even smallmouth bass, stuff like that. So I tend to like areas with more moderate depths. You can spread out. We can spread out a lot of holes along this shoreline. You know, one thing that I would tell anglers, first thing they need to do when they come here, especially if they're unfamiliar with the reservoir, is buy a map. Fish and Map Company makes a really good Flaming Gorge Reservoir map. It shows you a lot of the roads to access the reservoir. There's roads all down the length of the reservoir, both sides. It also shows you, reservoir contours, so you can kind of target areas that, that burbot occupy. A lot of times when I'm looking at trying out a new spot or new location, I'm actually looking for where the reservoir main channel, the old river channel, swings in close to shore, and then fishing above or below that. Right here we got cliff line down here below, so it's really steep drop off, and we're on a moderate depth just above that cliff line, so it should be a really good area. It also has a lot of rocky substrate. The other thing I'd recommend to anglers is try to fish areas that other anglers haven't already fished or aren't fishing. You can usually tell when people have already burbot fished an area heavily, because you'll see a lot of holes like we have here that we made. There's people that catch them on mud flats. There's people that catch them along cliff lines. But typically, areas like this are typically the best when they're actively feeding. And what I tell people all the time is just look for smallmouth habitat. If you're a smallmouth fisherman, you would look at this and say, oh yeah, this is good smallmouth habitat, and that's probably where burbot are gonna be too, doing the same thing, targeting crayfish. I've kind of customized my tip ups a little bit. I've got bells on them for one. So a lot of times, if you're out here burbot fishing in the dark, you hear bells ring, and it typically means your flag is gone. The other thing I've done is I've added a little bit of reflective tape to the flag. Makes it real easy to shine your headlamp across your sets and see if a flag's up. So I've got a 3/8 ounce jig head, glow in the dark, of course, with a glow in the dark soft body bait. I've already chopped up some sucker meat, so I'm going to put a small chunk of sucker meat on here. You can go very big on this if you want, but I tend to go a little bit small. The last thing I want to do is like fill my hook gap, which could decrease, hook penetration upon hook set or once the fish hits the tip up. On Flaming Gorge, you're allowed to use 6 poles or tip ups through the ice only. I'm going to be setting out 4 tip ups tonight, and then also 1 dead stick rod, and then also jigging a rod. Some nights, for whatever reason, the dead stick presentations perform a lot better, so the tip ups or a dead stick rod. Other nights I seem to do a lot better just moving around from hole to hole, jigging with a jigging spoon or a soft body bait like this, ice trolling if you will, and just pulling fish from hole to hole. I tend to start the night off doing both and then just fine tune it later. I also line out my rod or line out my holes covering a variety of depths, and then if you start seeing fish hitting one particular depth, I'll also maybe spread out using those depths, and so typically most of my fish are coming from 20 to 30 feet, but I've gotten them as shallow as 7 and I've gotten them as deep as 110. So just spread out a variety of depths, spread out the length of the shoreline, and then just fine tune from there. What I really like is these Gary Yamamoto grubs, the luminous white. Just hit them with a black light. I mean, it's still light out, and they still flash a really good glow. I've also done really well with Northland buckshot spoons. I like the 3/8 ounce. Same thing, I'll tip it with sucker meat, and then I'll actively jig that, although I have got them on dead stick presentations, but I seem to do better when I'm actively jigging the jigging spoon and just doing my dead stick presentations with a soft body bait. Radical glow tubes work really good too. They actually seem like they glow longer, so you don't have to recharge them as frequently. But these Yamamotos, they glow really bright. Okay, so we'll go set a tip up. So I'll drop this tip up, jig all the way down to the bottom. And now what I'll do is I'll spin it up 3 turns, and that pulls it up off the bottom. and also compensates for the length of the shaft when you drop it in the water. And then I'll set it like that. And now when it goes off, the flag will fling up and the fish will take the line and you just set the hook. Once again, it's got reflective tape, a bell so I can hear it, reflective tape so I can shine on it and tell if the flag's up. This inflow reach of the reservoir where the two main tributaries, the Blacks Fork and the Green River, come in, we actually documented a 53% decline in burbot abundance this year, and we also had a decline last year, so it's good to see that on a declining trend. Reservoir wide, burbot abundance was actually down 34%, and that there was also a decline last year. So we're on 2 years of declines for burbot abundance in the reservoir. I like to think that anglers are having the most impact. You know, there's a lot of anglers that come out here, take advantage of burbot, do a lot of harvesting for us. Anglers have really responded to Wyoming Game and Fish and Utah Division of Wildlife Resources call to assist us with this burbot population. Burbot are actually in a lot of their native range in a lot of states. You know, there's actually conservation measures in place to protect burbot because their numbers are so low. A lot of the research that's been conducted on burbot shows that they're real susceptible to predation. Lake trout and smallmouth bass actually being two of their dominant predators, like in the Great Lakes area. Also water development, you know, dams, things of that nature, impacting their ability to, you know, migrate, move to spawn, but also angler exploitation. And that's the tool we're trying to use here. We already have the predators. We obviously already have the water development. We're just trying to employ angler exploitation as a tool and hopefully impact their population in the reservoir. Yeah, that's a big fish. It's kind of surprising. Doesn't look very thick. You know, typically this time of year, they're spawning or getting ready to spawn. So they'll be really thick through here, you know, because they've got swollen gonads. So, but we'll cut it open later. Who's gonna eat it?
It's a big one.